An Israeli march calling for a ceasefire to enable the release of hostages ended at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. It appears to have had little impact. Other peace protests in various cities around the world have also failed to influence governments who support Israel's right to defend itself. David Garrett reports.
It took 5 days for these people to walk from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Their loved ones have been hostages for more than 5 weeks. These Israelis marched the 66 kilometres between the two cities to tell their government the lives of the hostages, the people they love, must be the top priority.
Of thousands of Israelis came to support us all the way to achieve our demand, to show our demand to the government, to the cabinet members, to do everything they can to bring the hostages back. We are expecting from them to meet with us. We are expecting for them to tell us how they're going to do it.
Many do not know if friends and family held by Hamas are alive or dead.
She's 85 years old, and we are not with her, and we are marching. We are marching to Jerusalem to bring her back, to shout and to say that she must be here back with all the kidnappers. We don't have time.
The group arrived in Jerusalem and were joined by thousands of others, but hopes of getting the hostages back soon are slim. Israel's government is unlikely to shift. It has repeatedly said the war will not stop until those 240 kidnapped are freed. Hamas offered releases in exchange for 6,000 Palestinian prisoners. In Tel Aviv, folks gathered to protest more generally about the war. These demonstrators think the current military action creates a cycle of violence, producing more terrorists in Gaza.
For Israelis in the Gaza envelope and for Palestinian civilians inside Gaza, we think that this war will only bring to more and more murder and will not bring safety to any of us. We are here to call for a ceasefire, a return of the hostages, and a long-ending solution to this conflict.
There was lots of passion, but not lots of people. Numbers were only in the dozens. Most Israelis support the war on Hamas. Thousands congregated in Tehran to condemn violence against Palestinians. They burned flags and shouted death to Israel. Iran supports Hamas and lambasts Israel as an illegal state. The head of the Revolutionary Guard branded Israel's elected government a regime and predicted it could collapse. His rhetoric prompted flag-waving and singing. Around the world, many more pro-Palestinian rallies. In Berlin, hundreds, some of them doctors, wore white coats to highlight the work of medics struggling to save lives under Israeli attack in Gaza. While in Washington, D.C., hundreds called for the U.S. government to stop funding for Israel. These protesters said it's time to free Palestine. Most surveys show most Americans back Joe Biden's support for Israel, although those same polls show belief in the policy is weakening and wavering. David Garrett, TVB News.
Evacuees from a small fishing town in Iceland remain in limbo with a volcano likely to erupt. Magma is rumbling under Grindavik. Authorities are predicting an imminent explosion and say it may not be safe for residents to return for months. The lava flow under the village is already causing damage. Steam is rising from massive cracks in the roads. Some parts of the ground have lifted by over a meter in just a few days. Last weekend, all 4,000 residents were told to leave the area. Iceland's government planned to cover their salaries for at least 3 months. A nearby popular geothermal resort has been shut until the end of November. During last week, seismic activity has intensified on the Reykjanes Peninsula, not far from the capital, Reykjavik. Amid proposed sanctions in the U.S. against 49 SAR officials, judges and prosecutors, as well as the upcoming national security trial of media mogul Jimmy Lai, there are concerns about whether authorities will invoke Article 55 of the National Security Law. Article 55 would allow national security cases to be transferred to mainland Chinese jurisdiction under exceptional circumstances. Secretary for Justice Paul Lam told TVB News that people should not be, quote, too concerned over the invocation of the article. And even if the mechanism is activated, defendants will face a, quote, fair trial. Jackie Lin with more.
Under Article 55 of the city's national security law, NSL-related trials could be transferred and heard in mainland courts when a foreign country is involved or the case is too complex. Speaking on the TVB program, Secretary for Justice Paul Lam said these are very exceptional circumstances.
What I wish to emphasize is that Article 55 of the NSL is a provision which provides for very exceptional situations. There are also very strict procedures that ought to be followed before Article 55 can be invoked. So I do not think we should be too concerned about this provision for the time being.
We know it could be speculative, but what if Article 55 is really to be invoked? Will it affect the perception of the judicial independence of Hong Kong or, our rule of law to the international community?
I would not say, and we cannot say, if Article 55 is invoked, then rule of law ceases to be important. Irrespective of who is going to assume jurisdiction, we must abide by certain principles. Consistent with the rule of law, we have to respect human rights and freedoms.
But Hong Kong and the mainland run very different legal system. One runs a common law system. Will it be harder for the defendant to hire appropriate lawyers to represent them?
There are many, many lawyers in the mainland, and they will be, all the defendants will enjoy the same right to be legally represented. And the difference lies in the procedure. The main difference is that if the mainland court is going to assume jurisdiction, then obviously, insofar as the criminal procedures are concerned, naturally, there will be express provision in the NSL.
Addressing the timetable to legislate the city's own local security law, Article 23 of the Basic Law, Lam said the deadline is set within 2024, and the government is studying overseas frameworks for the drafting efforts.
We will consult, for example, the NSL on national security legislation in the United Kingdom. There are many, many provisions that will be of some relevance. And then we have to decide for ourselves what is the best solution for Hong Kong.
Jackie Lin, TVB News.
To encourage private developers to take part in the development of the northern metropolis, authorities have started accepting applications for, quote, in situ land exchange in Kwun Tong and Fanling North. So far, among the more than 10 applications received, 7 have fulfilled the relevant requirements. Sharon Tang reports.
The application period for the land exchange scheme for the Kwun Tong North and Fanling North new development area is set to end by the end of next month. Authorities say they have so far received over 10 applications and are currently dealing with 7 of them that meet the requirements. The 7 applications are expected to yield 9,000 private residential homes.
We have commenced resumption of land for different land parcels. For example, those in Hong Shui Kiu, in Kwun Tong North, quite some years ago. So our pledge is to commence the resumption for the rest of the development areas by 2027. Actually, it's continuing.
Still, the Development Secretary said it's difficult for developers to take part in some of the development projects. She said for the Santin Technopole project, for example, relevant government bureaus may want certain leading enterprises to join in, and then the government will resume the site directly. Also, multiple government land plots and property development atop railway projects have recently experienced failed tenders. Lin said that will not slow down the government's pace in boosting land supply or producing land.
I think failed tender is largely because of the current economic situation in Hong Kong and in the world. So it shouldn't be something permanent. We should not run into knee-jerk reactions because the land uses for different parcels of land is premised on comprehensive planning and known demand. So if we change it too readily, it will upset the balance of the different land uses we have in mind.
She also said the terms and conditions of tenders can be adjusted, adding she's confident the sites where tendering was unsuccessful will eventually find a suitable bidder. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Today is Senior Citizens Day. People aged 65 or above can enjoy free rides on certain modes of public transport. Crowds of people were seen at the Central Harbourfront today, many of them senior citizens. Those who are 65 years old or above can take the MTR, buses, and ferries for free. Hong Kong Tramways also offers free rides to Senior Citizen Card or Joy U cardholders. Meanwhile, more than 2,000 restaurants and retail shops provided concessions and discounts to senior citizen cardholders today. The mainland training ship Yukon is on a visit to Hong Kong. The vessel, which is owned by the Dalian Maritime University, docked at the ocean terminal in Tsim Sha Tsui. Starting on Monday, the public can visit the vessel by buying a $10 ticket. Visitors can learn the routines of the marine crew during their visits. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.